Hey everyone, Teale here, and I'm here with the first episode of a 6-episode series in which I'm going to be showing you movements and exercises that are aimed to help you in your surfing. Today, what we're going to go through are 7 movements that you should add to your daily routine, not only for surf strength and foundation, but also just for a daily foundational base with your body. So these 7 movements that we're going to go through are your push-up, your sit-up, your squat, how to do a proper plank, lunges with thoracic rotation, burpees, and mountain climbers. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go through each movement step by step, and then at the end I'll pull together a circuit workout that you can go ahead and add to your daily routine. Or if you so choose, you can add each of these individually to maybe a workout that you're already doing. The first movement that we're going to start with is our squat. Now, you guys might already be doing squats in your daily workout routine. What I just want to go through are some technical aspects of the squat that might not be addressed as you are performing them. So, when we talk about doing a squat, we're going to go a little bit wider than our hips as far as our feet. We are going to have the toes slightly pointed out. Now there's different variations of the squat. We're just going to do a basic air squat. And these are great because they're going to be a foundational movement for when we start talking about compression and extension. You're also squatting when you are popping up. Now granted, in our functional stance, our feet are slightly different, but the motion of our legs and the strength that you need to have in your legs is still very much the same. So when we squat, like I said, legs are going to be a little bit wider than hip distance. Toes are going to be slightly pointed outward, which is contradictory to our functional stance. You're not going to do that when you pop up on your surfboard. We are going to actually sit our hips back when we go into this squat position. You want to keep your chest upright. We do not want to be bending over like this as we're squatting, or if you want to see it from the side, this is not the position we want to get into when we squat. A lot of the pressure will then be on your toes. Your knees are going to be over your toes. That's a lot of pressure on your knees. Something that can aid you in performing a proper squat is sitting back into a chair. That's going to really allow you to get that trust fall feeling into the chair as you're sitting your weight back into your heels. And you're going to be able to actually fully sit in the chair and come back up. So as we go ahead and sit into our squat, it is sending the hips back as we're bringing our body down, okay? You should start to feel your glutes engage. It's also really great hamstring workout too, and your quads should be engaged. So as we squat, couple of pointers. You do not want to have your knees bend in. If they start to bend in, this is not proper form. Keep them like you have a block in between them, okay? You want to have your weight in your heels. You should be able to lift your toes up off of the ground. You also want to try to keep that spine straight, that chest up. So you're going to come down and you want to try to make it to at least that 90 degrees, and you're going to come back up, keeping that core engaged, coming up through those glutes and using those glutes to power yourself back up. So again, as we talk about this squat, we're going to sit our weight back into our heels, come on down. You can keep your hands behind your head. You could use a broom behind your back if you want to make sure your back's staying straight. And then you're going to come back up, okay? From the side, what that looks like, again, feet slightly wider than hip distance, toes slightly splayed. We're going to sit our hips back, knees are staying wide, and then I'm going to come back up. So that's the first of the 7 movements that I want you to add into your daily fitness routine. The second movement that's going to be very helpful is a lunge with a rotation. This is going to help you build singular leg strength. It's going to again engage your core, especially with a thoracic rotation. You're going to then add balance into this. We're going to work on some ankle strength too. All of this is going to come in handy when you're walking around town and also when you're out surfing. So what's a lunge look like? Well, again, we want to talk about doing angles, okay? So if I'm starting facing you, my feet are going to start out a little bit just in hip distance, okay? So as I lunge, there's two different types. I can do a forward lunge. I can do a reverse lunge. We're going to work on the forward lunge at this moment. So when I start talking about doing a forward lunge, I'm going to step back behind my mat. I'm going to want to take my right leg first. Doesn't matter what leg you start with. And I'm going to step that leg forward. Now, when I step my leg forward, there's a couple of things that I want to have happen. Again, we don't want to have the knee coming over those toes. That puts a lot of stress on your knee. Instead, we want to ensure that our knee is in alignment with our ankle joint, okay? Our back leg should be in at 90 degree as well. So we're working with 90-degree angles when we're doing these lunges. So now I'm again in that similar position to what I was with that squat. My leg is in nice alignment with my hip. I'm engaging my core as I'm doing this movement. That back knee can either stay up, you can drop it down if you find that a little bit easier. And then we're going to add a rotation into this. So if my right leg is up, I am going to rotate to the right. Now if you go and do this, I'm starting to lose my balance a little bit. That's what we want. As you get more and more comfortable with this, you can even add weight. So we're going to rotate to the right, hold, come back to center. You're going to then step that right leg back. Whew, quads are burning. Then you're going to alternate. So now the left leg comes forward. Again, I want to have my knees over my ankles. I'm going to have that 90 degrees of my leg. So my knee joint is going to be at a 90-degree angle, as is my back leg. Core is engaged. This time I'm going to rotate over my left side. So looking to my left, bringing the arms over, hold, coming back, stepping that weight back. Okay? From the side, what this is looking like so you can better see the angles that I'm talking about. Again, this is a forward lunge. We are going to step that right leg forward, 90-degree angle as I'm going into this lunge. I'm then going to rotate, come back around, core is engaged, glutes are engaged, opposite leg. You're going to alternate each time. Left leg coming forward, 90-degree angle, hands come out, rotate, come back through. My spine is nice and straight. There's no sagging over. There's no leaning back, okay? So keep that core engaged. You're going to step back, come back around to center. So that's our lunge with a rotation. Both of those are going to, the squat and the lunge are both going to help build those legs. We want to have a lot of leg strength when we're talking about surfing or just our day-to-day life. So the third exercise I want us to go and work on is the plank. So there's two different variations of a plank. There's a high plank and then there's a low plank. We'll talk about both because the high plank is going to be incorporated into our mountain climbers. It's going to be incorporated into our burpees and our push-ups. The low plank is going to be your dynamic core workout where I want you to hold that for a long time. We want to learn both because both are going to be incorporated into exercises later on down the line. So when we talk about a plank, we want to come down into a tabletop position to start, okay? So this is our high plank. My hands are going to be beneath my shoulders, okay? I want to engage my arms into this position. So I'm then going to step my feet back. And I'm wanting to have my body resemble a tabletop. So there should not be any pushing up of my butt. There should not be any sagging of your butt. As you're in this position, arms are engaged. You should be trying to put your belly button into your spine. You want to have your neck nice and neutral. You do not want to have your neck looking up or sagging down. So try to keep that spine nice and neutral, okay? So this is our high plank. Now, that position is going to be our core position for quite a lot of movements. The low plank is the one that we're going to play around with holding for time to start. Ideally, if you can hold a low plank for a minute, that's a great goal to have. And then if you can start to hold it for longer and longer, that's where we want to get to. So when I start talking about a low plank, again, we're going to start with our arms about shoulder width apart. So coming on down, nice and shoulder width apart. I have my knees down to start in order to get my body positioning correct. So you can either have your hands in fists or nice and flat. You're then again going to step those feet back and engage that core. So when I talk about engaging the core, I want you thinking about pulling that belly button up into your spine, tightening up the glutes, tightening up your whole center section, and you're going to keep that back nice and flat. Again, we don't want to have that sagging. That's going to put strain on your lower back. We don't want to have our bodies lifted up because that's just not going to work our core any longer. So we want to really hold ourselves like a table, okay? So the goal is to be able to hold this position here for a minute. Now, that might not be feasible for people at the start, so hold it for 10 seconds, drop the knees, relax, get ready to go back into your plank position, and you're going to go ahead and then re-engage after taking that little break. You want to have good technique and good form throughout these movements. So that's our plank. We're going to work into that with a lot of our training because for surfing, we want to have that strong core. So the next movement we're going to go through is our burpee. Now, I absolutely love the burpee from the standpoint that it's cardiovascular. You're also having an explosive movement as well. So when we talk about doing a burpee, I like to break it down into 4 parts. The burpee is our squat, which we worked on before. It's then a plank, it's a push-up, and then it's a jump. So when we talk about doing a burpee, it's very explosive. It's good for building that power in our muscles. It's also good for getting your heart rate up. So I'll show you the normal version of full power, and then I'm going to show you a tailored version so that way if you're not quite at that full power version, you can work up to it. So when we start talking about a burpee, same positioning with our feet as with the squats. So a little bit wider than hip distance. As I come down to get myself into that plank position, I'm going to squat down. My hands come onto the floor. I then jump my feet back into that plank. That's position 2. I'm then going to come down and do my push-up. And as I come out of my push-up, my feet are going to jump back into that squat, and I'm then going to explode up. Okay, so putting that all together, again, squat down, jump the weight back, down, up. So that's that burpee being broken down into 4 steps. Now, some people might not be able to do that at this point. Knees might not be good, so that jumping's out of the option. Maybe we don't have the flexibility to get into that plank position from a jump. So what I want you to then tailor this burpee to is same thing. We're still going to squat down, and we're going to put our hands on the ground, and then we're going to step our feet back, okay? Now, some of you might not be able to do a strict push-up, so drop your knees to the ground. Here we're going to then go ahead and keep the core engaged, perform that push-up, bring the feet back up, step the feet back a little bit wider than hip distance, come up. If you feel like doing your jump at the end of it, boom, that's still going to get that heart rate up. So that's just a different alternative to the burpee if you're not quite there yet. And that's what's great is we can go ahead and have these different variations to build up to the norm, to that burpee that's a continuous flow. Okay? So the next one that we're going to go through are our mountain climbers. Again, another great cardiovascular workout. What's really nice about the mountain climbers as well is that it's going to help work on getting your front foot up by those hands, which is where we want to have them when we're talking about doing the pop-up. So when we talk about mountain climbers, again, that high plank position comes into play. So coming back down, hands are going to be shoulder distance apart. I'm going to engage my arms in this. I'm going to come into my high plank position, and I'm going to send one of my legs in between my hands. So core is engaged. I'm going to bring my right knee between my hands, and then I'm going to send it back. Then I'm going to send my left knee in between my hands and send it back. So right, left. At no point am I sending my butt up in order to do this, guys. Again, we're holding that high plank position, and I'm then sending my knees in between. Now, as you start to become more proficient, you can add speed to this. You can even add jumps to this. But the whole time you're doing it, you want to keep your core engaged and keep that form really nice. So you can, again, start off going slow and build up to that speed where you're then using this as a cardiovascular workout. So, next workout we're going to go ahead and go through, going back into high plank again. All of these are really going to have that high plank as that foundational movement because, again, we're working that core. We're going to go and talk about how to do a proper push-up. So when we talk about doing a push-up, we really want to go ahead and work our upper body muscles, right? So we want to engage that chest. We want to engage the back, actually, a little bit as well. So when we're going into our push-up position, again, it's going to be that high plank to start. So my core is engaged. Hands are about shoulder distance apart. And I'm going to try to bring my chest down to where I could potentially fit a fist underneath, okay? And it's not going to be fast. You want to do these push-ups nice and slow and controlled. And so that way you're engaging the right muscling. So as we're coming down, my hands come out into that 90 degrees. My body is my chest is about where I can put a fist in. And then I'm going to come back up nice and slow and controlled. My head is going to be in a neutral position, so my spine is nice and straight. And again, we're not wanting to go ahead and go crazy with these. I want you thinking about the muscling you're engaging as you're going down and coming back up. Now, this might be really difficult for some of you. And so what we can go ahead and do is drop our knees down. Again, the hand positioning is going to stay the same, but we want to go ahead and have then maybe not as much weight being pushed onto them. So we drop our knees down, keeping the core engaged, nice inline spine. And again, I'm going to push my elbows out, come down to about fist, where I could fit a fist in between my chest, coming back up nice and controlled. Feeling those muscles as I'm going into the lower part of my push-up, feeling the muscling as I'm coming back up. Okay? Now, maybe you can't go ahead and do the push-up on the ground. If you have a wall or a table, it's going to be the same exact positioning where we're then using that high plank, and you can use that wall to help facilitate that movement and work your way on down to the floor. Our final move is going to be our sit-up, which is another core movement. What I want you to think about when you're doing a sit-up is doing it nice and controlled. You may need to hook your feet around or underneath a chair or underneath a weighted object, or have a partner stand on your feet. Because as we're doing these sit-ups, we do not want our feet lifting up off the ground. We also don't want our butt lifting off the ground. So going into that sit-up position, my feet are going to be out just a little bit. They don't have to be right next to each other. They can have a little bit of space between them. You're going to have that nice flat back, core's engaged, and you're going to have your body start out on the ground, okay? So we're starting out on the ground. My shoulders are touching the ground. My goal is when I do this sit-up that my elbows are going to touch my knees. As I come up, I'm going to engage my core, keeping my feet and my butt on the ground, touching my knees, my elbows to my knees, and then coming back down nice and slow and controlled. Again, trying to keep that butt flat on the ground. We don't want to have that butt come up to help us throw ourselves up in this position. We want to do everything nice and slow and controlled. So feet are staying on the ground, butt staying on the ground, core is engaged. I'm rolling up, touching, coming back down. Rolling up, touching, coming back down. You want to breathe as you're doing these. Do not hold your breath while you're doing any of these exercises. So I hope you found that these 7 exercises are helpful. At the end of this program, I'll have a couple of workouts that I've pre-written that you can go ahead and start to incorporate into your training plan. And hopefully, I will see you again next week. Have a good one.